All right, I'm JJ Stankevitz here at the NFL owners meetings in Orlando with Colts general manager Chris Ballard. Chris, we're kind of through the first couple waves of free agency. Obviously, you can always continue roster construction, roster building into the season. It's not set in stone yet. But why was it important to retain so many pieces on defense, specifically with Tyquan, Grover, Kenny, those guys all coming back?
Well, look, they're all been really good players for us. And, being able to get all three of those guys back into the fold, we were really excited about. All three of them had other opportunities, and, luckily we were able to get a deal done to get them back. And I don't think you can underestimate continuity and being in the scheme another year, how much that's going to help, not only them personally, but also the team.
Talking to Shane about this yesterday, and he made mention that, hey, when you get that continuity on defense, you're going into year 3 with Gus. All these guys have played together for 5, 6, 7 years now. That can lead to more takeaways. How do you see that continuity maybe leading to a jump in this defense with Gus this year?
It'll be fun to watch because, we still got work to do. But when you understand what our defensive staff and Gus and them are trying to do, and then you understand where the strengths of the defense are, and then also where they can hurt you a little bit, it makes you to play a little freer, a little faster. Each and every year you've had more reps in it. So that's definitely a benefit.
Let's talk about Raekwon Davis a little bit, a guy who played mostly in a 3-down front in Miami where he's kind of 2-gapping. You mentioned when we were talking to the local media here that you think there's a little bit more in his game, maybe coming to a 4-down, more attacking front. Where do you see him fitting in that defensive line?
Well, there's no doubt he'll definitely be in the mix. He's a big man who can move for a big man. So I think everybody knows my philosophy. Like, I don't think you can have enough good players up front. And then we're excited to get him in the mix and, see what more he can add to the defense. But we think he can play both the 1 and the 3 and give us some snaps. But we know Grover can play both the 1 and the 3. And it gives us some flexibility inside, also with Buck.
And that gives you the depth, too, to maybe not put so much on Grove and Buck as well.
Yeah, and then, getting Raekwon, also getting Taven signed back into the mix, who we thought, did some really good things last year. And then also our young players behind them. We think we got some good depth inside.
It's kind of a bigger picture question, but last year at the owners' meetings, you mentioned that you fielded inquiries for Ryan Kelly, Kenny Moore II. You said, we're keeping them. They're good Colts. They're good players. And they both went out, had outstanding seasons. Obviously, Kenny now back on the extension. Is that just a reminder that development's not linear, careers are not linear? You shouldn't bury guys, after one maybe down season if they have, prior success. Just the lesson of that, those guys, keeping them and then having them play so well last year.
I think we all had a rough 2022. I mean, me included. And, look, we believe in people, and you bet on people. And I knew what kind of people they were. And it doesn't shock me that they bounced back the way they did. And I think they'll continue to play at a high level. I mean, of course, when things don't go right and your play declines, you've got to address it. But we didn't see any decline physically. It was just one of those years. So, no, very, very proud of what those guys were able to do and where I think they're going.
Offensively, you've invested in Michael Pittman Jr., invested in Jonathan Taylor. Anthony Richardson invested a high pick in him. When you look at that kind of trio of skill position players, what can they build on in 2024?
Well, I think, one, getting, Anthony, through getting him back in the mix and into a full season is going to be fun for everybody to watch, all of us included. And I think when you look at Pittman, another year 2 really in the new offense, Jonathan Taylor being healthy for an offseason. We forget last offseason he went through a surgery and rehab, and then we had the contract stuff going on. For him to be clear mentally and physically, I think we're about to see a monster year from Jonathan. And then getting Anthony back in the mix with those guys, makes it exciting going forward. And then, you don't ever want to forget about, we think Josh Downs, we like Pierce, we like the totality of our tight end room, and we think we got a really good offensive line. So we think, of course, you always want to add, but we got the draft and some more free agency here down the line, but we're excited about where we're at.
The impact Reggie Wayne has made seems to be pretty significant there as a coach. But I want to ask you about him as like a talent evaluator. Like he's he was big on downs last year, right? What have you learned about Reggie's eye for not just being like, hey, that guy's a good receiver, and that's a good receiver who fits us?
Let me tell you this about Reg, because I think the world of Reggie, and it's been fun to watch him grow. Not grow as a coach. Like, he had never really coached before when he got in this position, so he was just figuring it out. It's different when you're a player, all right? Now when you have to go teach what you know, it's different, because a lot of times guys can't do. This is one of the things I used to tell Reg, was like, hey, they can't do what you did. You got to figure out what they can do and help them enhance that. And that's been fun for me to watch. And then also, even as an evaluator, I've always thought that players know players. They do. They have a good feel for it. And they have a good, like, you ask our locker room knows who can play. I mean, they have a good feel for it. And I think he played in the league so long. He's been around the game for so long. I think he understands the skill sets that are required to be successful at wideout. And that helps him identify, guys like Josh Downs.
With the continuity on the coaching staff, just in general, how does that benefit Shane and kind of the message and the culture and the scheme and all that stuff that he's building, keeping coordinators, keeping position coaches on staff this year?
I think that was critical. Anytime you have continuity year to year, it's you're going to do things better. And we think we got some really good coaches. I thought Shane did an outstanding job. When he went and hired, hit the staff and put the staff together, he was very diligent. He took his time. He didn't rush. And I think it came to fruition as we went through the season. You saw these guys grow and continue to grow together as a staff. It's no different than a team. I mean, they're growing as a staff together. So, no, excited about, having everybody back. And I think the addition of Charlie Partridge we're excited about from University of Pittsburgh, as our defensive line coach. He's got a wealth of knowledge, and he's a really good teacher.
Last one for you here, Chris. Just what kind of growth have you seen from Shane specifically that, maybe last year as he's trying to, set this foundation that he's now kind of started to build on in year 2 so far?
I think the first year as a head coach, you're just trying to navigate being a head coach. I mean, you're now, when you've been a coordinator, you're in charge of your unit, but now you're in charge of every coach, every player on that team. And I thought he did a tremendous job, in year 1, but then going into year 2, understanding the areas that we needed to improve, challenging our coaching staff and challenging our players in places that we need to improve and get better, and then challenging us on where we need to get better as a personnel staff and things that he needs to be successful.
All right. Chris Ballard, thanks for the time here
Awesome.
in Orlando.
Thank y'all.